This is sort 17 of the green sorts. And today we're looking at a new concept in that we're talking about stressed and unstressed syllables. And we're noticing that usually when you add a prefix, it's unstressed syllable. And also that long sounds can appear in both the first syllable and the second syllable in a multi-syllable word. And it's usually the stressed syllable. So we're looking at A today, the sound of A, and where we can find it. And here we go. So we've laid out our headers. We've got first, second, and oddball. And first and second refers to syllables. And so we might tell the syllable story. A syllable is a word or part of a word that makes one vowel sound. And we point at our ear when we say sound. So we're just reminding ourselves that these are multi-syllable words, probably at least two, and that sometimes the sound we're listening for is in the first syllable and sometimes in the second. So we'll just start, ask them does anybody have bold words? And these two words will appear, and I'll say, where do you hear the A sound in this word? Say it out loud. Rainbow. And they'll say it's in the first syllable. And I'll say, what about this word? And they'll say awake. And you can definitely hear the A in awake in the second syllable. And so they'll just start putting out their words. This person has painter. This one has mayor. This one has mistake. So notice here, it's a prefix, and we usually do not emphasize the prefix. Parade. Escape, and these just come out in whatever order they do. Pavement. Bracelet. Ooh, bracelet. Raisin. Maybe. Payment. Amaze. They'll say again. They'll put this one here and we'll talk about it again in a minute. Decay. Today. Basement. Remain. Complain. Crayon. Hopefully you can see all these words. Explain. Contain. And obey. And likely the person who has this word, chocolate, is going to say, I don't hear A in this word. And therefore, even though we can see there's a spelling pattern here that we would normally associate with a long A sound, it doesn't do that in this word. And so that's important for them to notice. Now, how do we tell which syllables we emphasize? Usually I teach them the go call for your dog in the park. And you're a very strange person. You named your dog Crayon. So if you were in the park and you were calling for your dog, how would you call them? Crayon, crayon. You can hear that I'm emphasizing the A. But if you called your dog, whoopsies, I see I made a mistake here. I put raisin over here. If you called your dog explain, you would say explain, explain. And so using that call your dog technique is easier for kids to hear the emphasis than if they just try to listen to themselves saying it. Some kids can tell by what's happening inside their mouth in terms of how they're moving their mouth around, but it's quite tricky and they have to be really aware. So really think about using that dog call technique. And you can use any of these words for that. And then that's the sort, but I always like to see what else we can make of this sort, what other things we can notice. So I'll say to them, well, what patterns do you see in spelling the A sound? So here we have rainbow. What is saying A? And they're going to say AI. So I'm going to say, are there other words? And we're going to rearrange this. So we have this. And then I'm going to say, oh, so these ones AI says A. Are there any here where we have AI in the second syllable? And so I'm going to move awake. We have complain, remain, explain, contain. Ooh, there's lots in the second syllable. Sort of surprises me. But notice all of these have a prefix. And this is where we might talk about this one, because this is a dialectic difference. Some people say again. There's no doubt about it. But often we say again, like it's an en at the end, that kind of pronunciation. And so this one could go here or it could go here. Canadians tend to say again when they're trying to make an emphasis, but also say again. So your decision where you're going to put it, but I would definitely bring that to people's attention, because if they hear again on a spelling test, they're likely to think that it has a different spelling. Okay, so I think we've got that spelling pattern done. Are there some other patterns that we can see? What's saying A here? And I'm going to move this down so that we can see that all those, or maybe I'll move this up, so that all those fit into this spelling pattern. And now we have a different spelling pattern. And what is that? And they're going to tell me that that's a silent E pattern, A-E. So the dash stands for whatever is in the middle there. So we're going to have a few of those, and they're going to recognize those. And we're going to have a few on this side too. Amaze, mistake, escape, parade, and awake. So we have a few there. And then I'm going to ask them, well, whoops, what else do you see? And they're going to tell me that AY says A, and so I have 4 in this category here, and I have 2 over here, decay and today. I'm going to make sure they know the meaning of all these words, especially decay might be one they don't know, and we can talk about how that relates to science and biology and lots of things, or tooth decay from health. And then we have this other one where EY says A, and there's not a lot of words, but 2 that will be important for them are they and obey. Those are sort of the most common ones. They obey. So EY can say A in those cases. So now we've practiced listening for the stress, and we've noticed that when we add a prefix, that is not the stressed syllable. And we've looked at 4, I'm going to say 4.5, or 4 different, or 3.5, 4 different spellings to get that A sound. So lots covered in this one. Thank you.